Hey everybody, how are you doing? Welcome to the XJW podcast. I'm your girl Nell, your hostess with the mostest. I hope that you are having a fantastic week. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. I hope that you are having so far a really good 2025. I am drinking some turmeric tea because the weather in my neck of the woods has been cold and rainy. And so I have arthritis in my feet. And so I have to make sure that the inflammation that is building up doesn't get out of hand. And that's why I'm drinking turmeric tea. But welcome to the podcast. If you have not already subscribed to the XJW podcast channel, please consider doing so. I would really appreciate that. This is the first video of the new year. And as you see, I am face to face with you. I am in front of the camera. And I know that I made the choice, the decision before to not be in front of the camera. I think that some videos, I probably more than likely will alternate between being live in the camera in front of you guys and then, just going ahead and doing it just podcast or audio style. So let me know your thoughts about that. But Happy New Year. Today's video is why do some XJWs return to Jehovah? Let's talk about it. The other day, on my travels through social media, I was in an XJW group, and one of the group members made a post, and the post said that. Well, let me just read it to you. I don't like to misquote anyone, though I don't know them personally and they do not know me. I don't like to misquote anyone. So let's go ahead and pull that post up. And it's in the Christian ex Jehovah's Witnesses recovery group. I'm not a Christian, but I like the group. And if you would like for me to talk about why I am not a Christian, that's a great topic we could talk about. So let me know in the comment section if you would like for me to answer that question for you. But here is the post. The young lady says, "I'm leaving the group. I'm going to give, excuse me, I'm going to give Jehovah another chance. I was once very happy when I was serving Jah. Love to you all. Take care." Now, I commented under that, and this is what I said. I replied, "You mean you're giving Jehovah's Witnesses, the religious organization, another chance? Jehovah never left you." And I felt that speaking on this topic today would be beneficial to a lot of people who have left Jehovah's Witnesses and who are considering going back, who have once been disfellowship or what they're now calling removed from the organization and are considering going back. What are some reasons why some XJWs are returning to Jehovah? And what are some of the reasons? And then how can we be of assistance to them during this period of transition in their lives? Okay. So first of all, for those who are not familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses is an organization that was started in the early 19th century, the late 18th century, the early 19th century by a white man named Charles Taze Russell, who was disenchanted with the way his religious affiliation, he was disenchanted with what he was experiencing within his own religious affiliation. So he decided to go on a search to find what was the real or the true religion. All right. So he tried many different things until he happened upon a set of people who were, I believe they were Second Day Adventists. And so he came across this group that he liked what he heard. And so he joined it. And so in joining, he helped with creating and establishing what is now the Adventist movement, Second Day, Seventh Day Adventists. If you look at their what the Seventh Day Adventists, what they believe and what Jehovah's Witnesses believe, it's pretty similar. However, there was a discrepancy between Charles Taze Russell and one of the founders of the Second Day Adventists, and they had a dispute about it in their weekly, I think it's their weekly or their monthly magazine. And I believe it was about whether or not there was a resurrection. Okay, so there was a dispute about that. And so Charles Taze Russell decided that, hey, I believe in a resurrection, so I'm going to break off and do my own thing. And so he left that organization. And those people who followed Charles Taze Russell, who agreed with him in his beliefs that there is a resurrection, they went ahead and joined Charles Taze Russell in founding the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. Now, I don't want to get into the weeds and the thick of the organization because there are different components to it. It's not just a religion, and it did not start off as just a religion. It started out as a publishing company, and then, it morphed into a religion. And then when Charles Taze Russell died, there was a coup. There was a coup, and oh, what's that guy named Rutherford? I can't think of his first name. I want to say John Rutherford. Who knows? Okay, I'll go ahead and look it up. Uh Tell you. Let's see. Rutherford of Jehovah's Witnesses. Yes, his name was Joseph Franklin Rutherford. He was also known as Judge Rutherford, but he was never a judge. He was a lawyer, but he wasn't a judge. And it was because he was a lawyer and in the higher echelon of Jehovah's Witnesses, who were at the time known as the International Bible Students Association, it's because he was a lawyer that he really knew how to strategize to take over the organization. Okay. And that's how he was able to create a coup, took over the organization. And what you see today is not the Charles Taze Russell version of Jehovah's Witnesses. What you see today is the Joseph F. Rutherford version of Jehovah's Witnesses. And over time, through the entity of the governing body up in New York, the religion has evolved, okay, into what you see it as today. Now, when you hear about people being disfellowshipped or removed from the Jehovah's Witnesses organization, it's usually because of some type of serious infraction that has occurred. All right. And they are excommunicated from the organization. Now, with any type of group or fraternity, sorority, place of employment, any type of thing or entity or organization that you join, we already know that there are bylaws that you have to adhere to. And if you do not adhere to them, you are given a warning, maybe 2 or 3 warnings, and then eventually it's time for the ways to part. Okay. Which all basic organizations do this. Okay. What makes Jehovah's Witnesses as a religion exceedingly special at this type of arrangement is the fact that when they excommunicate or remove or disfellowship someone from their organization, it usually comes with a caveat. And that caveat is no one can speak to you. No one can associate with you. People basically who leave Jehovah's Witnesses feel the coldness of the harsh realities of what true conditional love means. Okay? So this has led many Jehovah's Witnesses or former Jehovah's Witnesses to ways about the organization, to feel and this is because that caveat says that when a person is removed or disfellowshipped from the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, that any type of familial ties, friendships, associations that they may have established within the organization, those ties have become severed with a blowtorch. Severed with a blowtorch, okay? And especially this becomes especially difficult when you have family that's been removed from Jehovah's Witnesses, the organization, because the family is told that they can no longer associate with their son, their daughter, their mother, their father, their grandson, their granddaughter, their niece, their uncle, their aunt, cousin, whoever it may be. They have to treat their disfellowshipped, excommunicated, removed loved one as if they are deceased. Okay. And this is very, very difficult for people who have either voluntarily left the organization or who have been removed, disfellowshipped, or excommunicated from the congregation. So this leads us to also to today's topic of why is it that some return to Jehovah or return to the organization? First of all, as I mentioned, Jehovah's Witnesses is an organization of conditional love. They do not practice the same type of unconditional love that Jehovah or God has for mankind. They do not believe in unconditional love. If you have a husband or a wife that decides that they want to leave the organization and become known or labeled as an apostate, then what happens is that those members of the congregation, including the elder body, will bombard that one mate who is still an active Jehovah's Witness with questions as to how that mate who has left the organization or who is now known or labeled as an apostate, how they are affecting, or if the questions will be about if they are affecting that believing mate's spirituality. Okay, which means is the apostate mate or so bombarding the believing Jehovah's Witness with materials and brochures and books and links to apostate sites? Is that person persecuting or endangering the spiritual welfare of that believing mate? Okay. And if this is the case, then according to Jehovah's Witnesses, then that believing mate has the grounds to separate or become divorced from their partner. Indeed, indeed. So conditional love is not practiced in the organization. Up until recently, children were disfellowshipped from the organization. And what happens when you have a child, a minor who's living under your roof, and you are a Jehovah's Witness mom and dad? How do you treat that child? Well, I know from experience, firsthand witness experience, that Jehovah Witness parents will indeed ostracize their child, will not go to social functions with their child, will not go shopping with their child, will not go to the show with that child, will not go school shopping with the child, will not do any of the things that a family unit would do or that loving parents would do for their minor child because that child is disfellowshipped or removed from the congregation. Hence, this is why Norway revoked Jehovah's Witnesses registration there. And this is also why Jehovah's Witnesses, in response, changed their rules about disfellowshipping. They don't call it disfellowshipping anymore. They call it removed from the congregation. And then when it comes to children, they no longer disfellowship or excommunicate children or minors from the organization. And then on top of that, now at your discretion as a Jehovah's Witness, you can speak to a disfellowship or removed person. But you can't, you can say hi and you can say, hey, you want to come over and you want to go to would you like to go to the Kingdom Hall with me? Would you like to come to the assembly or the conventions or something like that? You can do that now. But as far as anything else goes, no, you cannot have any type of contact with that individual. These are the new rules. Okay. Now let's really dive into this real quick. So, as a person who was removed from the congregation, who was disfellowshipped before, I'm going to tell you flat out that being disfellowshipped is not a cool thing. Because let's say I did fall off, okay? I did sin, which is true. Let's say that is a fact, okay? But to tell your family and your friends to no longer have contact with you, and it's mandatory because God told them, or God says that you cannot have any type of contact with a person who is disfellowship from the congregation because of a certain scripture that says, stay away from this person because this person is the leaven in the lump, and it's the rotten in the fruit, and you got to get rid of it. You can't have any association with them because of that. The implications of having contact with a person who was disfellowshipped, okay, you yourself as an active member of Jehovah's Witnesses can be ostracized and disciplined for that. I've seen it happen. Being a Jehovah's Witness who was disfellowshipped or removed from the congregation is very traumatic because you lose your family. If you were a person like me, okay, who is a second generation or third generation Jehovah's Witness, then you know that I have family who are Jehovah's Witnesses. I have friends who are Jehovah's Witnesses. As a matter of fact, the entire community that I was a part of were all Jehovah's Witnesses, because when you are in this organization, the only friends that you have are part of the Jehovah's Witness community. The only family that you have, excuse me, are part of the Jehovah's Witness community. So when you are removed from the congregation, you have lost everything. You have lost absolutely everything. And it is very difficult to deal with, especially if you have parents, siblings, grandparents. They will turn their back on you. Excuse me. They will absolutely turn their back on you in the name of Jehovah. Because they say that Jehovah, the governing body, says that Jehovah told them this. And this is the way to handle wrongdoers. It's not enough to excommunicate them and kick them out the door. However, the punishment really becomes severe when you take away their support system, when you take away the love of a family, the love of your mother, the love of your father, the love of your siblings, the love of your cousins, the love of your grandparents, the love of your friends. When you remove all of those things, you, the disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness, or removed or excommunicated Jehovah's Witness, you are out here alone and by yourself. And this can play, such a heavy role in the turmoil, the mental anguish that a disfellowship or removed person feels. You go from one point, people talking to you and you having conversations, phone calls, texts from people that you know and that you love for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years to absolute radio silence. And this is traumatic psychologically. This is trauma on a whole different level. To be treated in a way, I know that I screwed up. Okay. I know that I screwed up. We're not even debating that fact, but my mother can no longer talk to me. My father can no longer talk to me. My siblings can't come around me. That's very, very traumatic and very severe. And this is one of the main reasons why Jehovah's Witnesses or some return to Jehovah. And I use that return to Jehovah in quotes. That's because there is a publication that Jehovah's Witnesses published maybe about 5 years ago called Return to Jehovah. And it's a publication that's specifically meant to target former Jehovah's Witnesses. Because what we're doing here is we're saying that the organization is Jehovah, and Jehovah, God, is the organization. And when you put these two entities together and you are kicked out of it, and for years you have been brainwashed and taught that Jehovah God and the Jehovah's Witness religion are one and the same, and you are kicked out of that situation, this is where the phrase return to Jehovah comes from. Because Jehovah's Witnesses would like to play those games with your mind and make you believe that God has left you because you have been kicked out of this religion. When in essence, none of that is true. Okay. The God of the Bible is not like that. The God of the Bible does not leave anyone. But the Jehovah's Witness organization and other organizations like it will do that because they practice conditional love. Jehovah never practiced unconditional. Jehovah never practiced conditional love. He practices unconditional love. We at Jehovah, God, the highest entity in the universe, doesn't leave anyone. Okay. It is us that leave Jehovah. Okay. Jehovah doesn't leave us. So this return to Jehovah thing, that is a misconception. It's return to the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. Okay. That's what it is. Because Jehovah doesn't leave us. He never leaves us. Now, for whatever reason, we may fall off. We may stop praying. We may stop doing the things that we need to do to grow our spirituality, and in some ways leave the connection that we may have built with God. But God never leaves us. So, the whole concept of returning to Jehovah, a lot of people who are former Jehovah's Witnesses still have a relationship with Jehovah. They still pray. They still read their Bible. They still do the things that they know as a good Christian as they're supposed to do. So in essence, they haven't left Jehovah. They just decided to worship him outside of the organization. And a lot of people return to the organization because they feel that Jehovah is tied into the organization. They had that misconception that Jehovah's Witnesses, the religion, Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania or New York or whatever they're calling it these days, They believe that all of these entities are all part of Jehovah and that they're one and the same, when that's not true. Why is it that the new information that came out during the annual meeting last year, or I should say in 2023, why is it that the new information is when Armageddon strikes that anybody can become a Jehovah's Witness? Anybody can return to the organization then. Why is that? Think about it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any kind of sense. Because this is all a brainwashing thing. This fellowshipping itself, excommunicating itself, is the way Jehovah's Witnesses practice it, is a brainwashing tool. It's a tool to make you feel so traumatized and psychologically abandoned, emotionally abandoned, physically abandoned. It's a way to make you feel those things so deeply that you decide that you're going to come back to the organization. And it's a technique. It's a it's a technique, and it works because it worked on me. It works on a lot of people because you miss those relationships. You miss your mother, you miss your father, you miss your brother, you miss your sister, you miss your uncle, you miss your friend. You miss being in that community together. You miss hanging out together. You miss that whole community. You miss that support system. And because you have not been trained to build relationships on the outside of the Jehovah's Witnesses organization, because you haven't been trained and you don't know how to do so, then when you on the outside looking in, you don't know how to have a relationship or how to create an entire community for yourself. You don't know how to create a support system and make connections with other people, worldly people, or people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses. You don't know how to do that. You don't know how to make friends. And in many regards, you don't want to because you still have that judgmental Jehovah's Witness mentality. So you still have this thing in you that says, oh, hey, I'm better than these worldly people. I'm better than them. I know something that they don't know. And then there you are. You're alone. You're lonely. You're frustrated. You're angry. But most of all, you're lonely. And so you say, I got to go back. I have to return to Jehovah. And see, the whole thing in a nutshell is that you will return to the organization. And for those of you who are really considering doing so, go ahead, go right on ahead and return to Jehovah, return to the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. I mean, they have a new thing now on the broadcast of all the people that they claim are coming back to the organization since the new information, the new light came out back in 2023. So you have all these people that are coming back to the organization. And I guarantee you, once they get into the thick of it, once again, they're going to realize that they were better on the outside than in. I mean, that JW broadcast for 2025, when this elder or whoever he was talking about, oh, my dad, he got this fellowship when I was 8 years old, or somewhere in there, 8, 9, 7 years of age, and he's been this fellowship all this time, and the gentleman looked like he's in his 50s. Just think about that. So the first time that he's probably spoken to his dad, let's see, probably the last time he spoke to his dad probably was when he was 17 or 18 years of age. When he moved out of his dad's home and went on about his life as a JW, I am quite sure he hasn't spoken to his father in probably about 30 or 40 years. And that's sad. And so now, oh, guess what? I get to have a relationship with my father now because he's not this fellowship anymore. He's returned to Jehovah. Now he gets to meet all his grandchildren or his great grandchildren. Wow, isn't it a wonderful day? Isn't Jehovah wonderful? What a blessing. I mean, you have to laugh because you have to laugh to keep from crying because the stuff is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. No one should have that type of power over you. No one should have the right or the type of power to tell you how you should move in this world. No one should tell you that you can't have a relationship with the son that you created, the daughter you created, that you can't have a relationship with your mother, that your mother can't have a relationship with you, that your father can't have a relationship with you, that your siblings, your brother, your sister can't talk to you anymore, that your uncles have to treat you like you're dead. No one should have the power to say that to you or to tell you to do something of that nature. The authority ultimately relies and depends on you. And when we give a physical organization that type of power over us to make those type of decisions, then what we're doing is we're giving up our rights. We're giving up our rights, our basic human freedoms. And the brainwashing part comes in when Jehovah's Witnesses tell you, number one, they have a governing body that speaks to God, somehow speaks to God. And then they tell you, oh, no, we're not inspired by God. Oh, no, we do get it wrong, but we don't feel the need to be embarrassed or apologize when we get it wrong. We're inspired, but we're not inspired. When people can come and talk to you double-sided out of one mouth, that is a red flag. But the fact is they have been getting away with this type of crap for over 125 years and have over 9 million adherents, tell you that brainwashing is real and that there are people in this world who are vulnerable enough and weak enough and who want to willingly buy and who are, let's say that, let me put it like this, and who also are in such a vulnerable, sad state in their lives that they are willing to give up common sense and critical thinking skills. They're willing to give these things up to buy into a piece of fiction, a fantasy. And the price of buying into this fantasy is the fact that if somebody that you love and that you would die for fuck it up, then you just have to turn your back on them and pretend like they don't exist or that they're dead to you. That's the price you have to pay. Even if that person is your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your uncle, your grandmother, your grandfather, your cousin, your best friend. And that's why people return to Jehovah. Or let's put it more, let's be more accurate about this. They return to the Jehovah's Witnesses organization because the pain that they're feeling, they don't want to feel that no more. The loneliness that they're feeling, they don't want to feel that no more. The pain of being ostracized, they don't want to feel that anymore. Like the young lady said in that group post, She said she felt more joy when she was a part of the Jehovah's Witness religion, and now she doesn't feel any joy or any happiness. And that's because Jehovah's Witnesses punished her and took that from her. And it is a technique to get her to come back. It's a strategy, a whole ass strategy. But if you're not strong and you do not know how to build your own community, if you do not know or feel comfortable in communicating with people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses, who are willing, ready, and able, if you're not willing to do that and to put the effort in, then you'll be returning to the Jehovah's Witnesses organization. But when you return and all those people come up to you and they hug you and kiss you and they tell you how wonderful it is to see you again and how wonderful it is for you to be back, I guarantee you that one of the things you're going to be thinking in the back of your mind is, where were you when I needed you? I also guarantee you that you're going to feel some bitterness, you're going to feel hurt, and you're going to feel angry. You most definitely will. Because in reality, these people are only conditional friends. They weren't there for you when you really needed family, when you really needed friends. They were not there for you. And you're going to think about that for a very, very long time. And one day you might be back. You might be back and you might be back into the XJW community with a story to tell, with a real story to tell. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here in the tiny studio. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. And what are your thoughts? Why do you think some people return to Jehovah or return to the Jehovah's Witness organization? Let me know what your thoughts are and what you think about this video. So I will talk to you next time here in the tiny studio. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm your girl, Neil, and this has been XJW Podcast. See you next time. Bye-bye.